Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these segments, I'll bring you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 254th episode, we have one of healthcare's greatest conveners and collaborators, Rich Scarfo, President of Health. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, this is your first time on air with me and with the show. So in that direction, where are you calling from today?
I am in our offices in New York City.
Excellent. And just a little background for my audience. Where'd you grow up, college, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, I'm an East Coast guy, so I grew up just outside of Philadelphia. I live in DC now. I spent half my time in New York. I got to DC through school. I went to George Washington University, and I ended up staying there when I started my career with the Consumer Technology Association, and spent about 11 years there and made DC my home. So it's been my base. I've lived a lot of other places for, throughout the years, but DC's always been home, and that's where I keep going back to.
Yeah. Well, our paths have not really crossed much, but we've similar in the way of I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Boston originally, or outside of Boston, but then spent almost 15 years on Capitol Hill, just in various capacities. And so, yeah, I mean, I know your background, your backyard pretty well. So cool. So before we dive into kind of around health and ViVE and all that, when I saw a Consumer Electronics Show and conference in your background, how does healthcare intersect with that? Because I've never been to a CES show, and is healthcare a growing piece of that show? I assume it would be, and it is, correct?
I think anything at CES on the consumer side will be present there. So of course, health is part of it. Mm-hmm. For me, starting my career there really was wonderful because I've always been a tech enthusiast. So it was the perfect place to start. That's where I really got a great understanding of the world of technology and how it affects the consumer. Mm-hmm. And after about 11 years there, I did a few other things which led me to health, and I kind of brought the two pieces together. After CES, like I said, I did a few things around electronic gaming, which was kind of fun, but then I ended up at NIH, and I worked at the foundation there for about 8 years. And it started to really expose me to all things health, from research to public-private partnerships to the life sciences side, even to global health, where I worked closely with the Gates Foundation. And along the way, the inequities in healthcare were always front and center, and that's really where technology started to come in. I took my passion for technology and married it with all that I was learning at NIH and at the foundation. And I was able to launch an event called the mHealth Summit.
Sure.
And we ran that for about 5 or 6 years, and then it evolved into the Connected Health Conference.
Yep.
So, it was a really interesting time for me because I took something that I was passionate about, which was technology, and brought it together with something I was learning about and something that touches everyone, which was healthcare. And those events ran, very successfully for about 10 years in total. And while that was going on, the team that I had put together to run the events, we stood up something called the Personal Connected Health Alliance. And, that really was exactly what it says. It took health, kept it focused on the individual and how technology and services were used to really increase access. And, I did that right up until I came over to health.
Okay. Did you ever come across Jamie Skipper at NIH?
No, I mean, NIH was huge.
Right.
I worked on the campus there as like 35,000 people, across like 24 institutes. Our foundation, the NIH Foundation, interacted with all of them. So I got to get a really interesting purview into a lot of the different institutes. But my interest was mainly at the foundation.
Yeah, actually, all those organizations you listed off, I participated in various capacities. So no, you brought a lot to healthcare in that regard. What what's your passion for healthcare? Where'd that come from? Was it just going to NIH, or was something before that, or what was that?
I got to NIH Foundation as sort of an odd introduction to someone. We really hit it off, and they needed some help building a lot of things at the foundation. It was relatively small at the time. A couple of them that I was interested in were, the event side of things, the public-private partnerships, and it led me to some really interesting stuff, like helping to run the red dress collection at Fashion Week with National Heart, Lung, and Blood. And like I said, the Gates Foundation, where I started to see in the developing countries where the mobile phone was sometimes the only access to healthcare. And, traveling there with the Gates Foundation and seeing the importance of something as simple as a flip phone to really helping save lives and reduce mortality during giving birth in many of these countries was something that I was just taken by. And that's what led us to launching the mHealth Summit. And at the time, it was really focused on global health initiatives because that's where it started. And we started to see a lot of interest from payers and provider systems and technology and service companies. And the first year of the mHealth Summit was very much focused on, like I said, global health. By the second year, it had advanced very quickly into a lot of companies looking at it for how it could help situations in the States. And so that's where I started to get very passionate about health, because I understood clearly, the lack of access that many people had, and how fortunate we are here, but also, again, going back to inequities in healthcare and how technology can help really address some of those. And, we still have a ways to go, but that's where it really started, because it to me showed something that many people take for granted, that's just unavailable to so many people around the world.
So true. So true. What were the origins of health?
Well, health, we just celebrated our 5th year, and health really started as an answer to something that, we think was missing from the industry. And that was, an experiential event focused on investment and innovation in digital health. It was a pretty straightforward idea in the beginning. There were some sister events to health in the past, Money 2020 and Shop Talk. And, they all came at it from the same approach. And that is creating a platform focused on innovation, attracting senior executives and C-suite, really decision makers and leaders that can make a difference, creating an event that was experiential, from the food to the entertainment to the atmosphere. We feel that it's okay to have a really strong business and networking event and marry that with something that's actually fun and promotes conversation and networking, but also brings together different sectors that don't necessarily get to interact the way that they do at health. And, we had a really fantastic first year. I joined after the first year, actually, but, it's what really got my attention. In the first year, a lot of startups and VCs and senior executives that came together to really change what we call, or map the future of health. And so that's really where it started. The event going into year 2 grew very quickly.
I remember.
And we're very careful with that. We don't want the event to grow too large. But what happened in year 2 is that we started to see, and actually that's when I came over, right after the first year, because I saw what was happening at health as something that was exciting and that was different from what was out there. And it seemed to be moving in a way that was really just a free form of creativity and ideas, and it looked kind of fun too. So that's what attracted me. So I left at that time Personal Connected Health Alliance, and I came over to health. And so I've been here just about 4.5 years now.
Yeah, that I was very impressed with. Well, I've seen health, throughout the years grow. Participated in a few, but this last one was great. The one in Las Vegas. What was the final tally there? How many people attended ballpark?
Well, we have a few amazing demographics. There were 2,500 CEOs present at the event, and just under 50% of our audience was vice president and above, which is really the important piece. We did have over 10,000 attendees, and we had about 900 sponsors and exhibitors, which was amazing. And that ranges really from startups, which we had, I think, 1,000 startups.
There were a lot.
VCs, we had about 1,100. And, the numbers, I think, are less important to us in terms of total number, as making sure we have the right people attending the event and we have the right demographic. We watch very closely the percentage of C-suite at our event. And if that percentage goes down as numbers go up, that's a concern to us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I can vouch certainly for, those numbers and people, because it was the quality was significant that I saw, and people, the conversation that I had, the level of executives that were there. Just when I try to explain it, it's like the thought leader conference. It's like the thought leader show. It's like, if you're a thought leader in healthcare or healthcare IT or digital health, you're at this conference. So
that's really what we strive for. And, as we engage with various partners, it's important that they can help us tap into communities of interest to the event, because, it changes every year, right? Things continue to evolve. There are new players. There are new topics, and we want to make sure that health is always at the forefront, with those things.
Yep. Completely agree. And a lot of my guests throughout the years, it was great. So I actually caught up with probably 20 different guests that I've had on my show throughout the last 8 years at your conference in November. So it was really great, because just to be able to touch base with them. And now I've several lined up this year to be back on air, just to keep, tabs on everybody and see how everything's evolving. So, kudos to you for pulling that together and hosting. It was awesome. Great to attend.
Well, it's really an amazing team that we have here that helps make all that possible.
And you covered some of this, but what do you, I like this question, because I always ask this of any president or CEO of an association or event. What makes health unique in the digital health space? What makes your conference and organization unique?
Wow. I think everything starts with the team. And the vision, of course. We kind of joke here that we have a group of unicorns and misfits, and we all just sort of belong together.
Yeah.
It's really, for me, coming here from very structured organizations or larger associations and stepping into health was interesting, because, it was a small group, open office environment, stand-up desks, and, just really no hierarchy in a negative sense, and no red tape. And it took me a minute to adjust to that. But for me, it really pointed to how important it is to not only have an amazing team, but allow them to be creative and deliver, everything that you brought them into to deliver, fresh ideas, different perspectives. We're just really fortunate to have the team that we have here. And we also do everything in-house here. We have no agencies. So we have no PR agency. We have no creative agency. Everything from our content curation to all of our creative, from the animation and graphics, everything you see is done internally. And, we do that. Of course, we have an amazing creative team, but we do that in a very open environment where ideas are going back and forth. It makes it fun and kind of special. And, we also try to look at things and break them. We don't want to come back every year with the same thing. We're not always understood, but the idea is exactly for that. We want people to come in and be a little bit wowed. I think the team here is just very passionate and focused, also not on just producing an event or events, but on making a difference. And that's something that I think shows in a lot that we do. I think for us also, what makes us unique in the space as an event, the things we talked about, which is that senior exec and C-suite audience, is something we're very focused on. We also, as part of the overall experience, we try to stay away from, massive booths. We like some, there are some bigger booths at our event, but that's not who we really are. We want companies, large and small, to really be on somewhat of a level playing field. So you can see a large company, and right next to it, you'll see some startups.
Right.
And we like that. It's good. We also, a big piece of our event in bringing all these executives together is to make sure that we can facilitate networking. And we do that in a couple of ways. Our Funding Founders program is unique in the industry, and that matches startup CEOs and founders of startups with VCs. And we do thousands of those meetings at Health. And our other program is called Hosted Buyer. And that is something that brings together our sponsors or solution providers with buyers and decision makers from payer, provider, large employer, life sciences, and government organizations in 15-minute meetings. And I think at the last Health, we ran over 4,000 of those meetings. Wow. So, it's important to us not only to have all of the things that I've talked about that equal the experience, but also to use people's time really efficiently. I think they appreciate that. Everyone's busy. But also to make sure that the companies that are participating with us, large or small, get a great return on their investment. Especially nowadays where, budgets are tight. We want Health to be, and ViVE to be, the events of choice because we're trying to do the right things for companies.
Well, I know there's great value there because I circled back. Actually, a few of my investments were at this last conference. And so I circled up with the CEOs afterwards to say, hey, what's your perspective on the show? Was it valuable for you? And absolutely. And certainly those Hosted Buyer programs, I actually knew, I think it's Evolence on one side and then also some of my smaller startups on the other side. And everybody was happy with that type of a setup. So, kudos to you. And I know it's providing great value to the market and industry. So it's awesome. And for those that may have joined a little late today, my special guest is Rich Scarfo, president of Health. So you just mentioned ViVE, and we've certainly talked about ViVE before, but how and why was ViVE created?
Well, let's see. ViVE's going into its second year. I think when COVID hit, a lot of companies were really focused on getting through it and trying to get back to where they were. For us, a couple of things happened, but we also stepped back and said, how do we come out of this in a better place? Let's just not just where we were. I think, the other benefit of Health and working, for Jonathan, our founder, is he invested in the vision and the future of what we're creating. And we were lucky that we didn't pull back during COVID. We really delivered experience during our virtual event. We kept our team. We continued to grow. So we're very lucky there. But what was happening as we were trying to do all the right stuff is we were getting an influx of interest for Health from companies. And so much so that we couldn't really keep up with it. But they weren't the right companies for Health. We want to make sure that we keep Health very much focused on the innovation spectrum and, right, touching all corners of the healthcare ecosystem. And these companies were really more in the business side or the health IT side of the space. And, at the same time, we also had a growing relationship with Chime, which is an organization that I got to know in my last company. And, in kind of keeping that focus, we thought, is there space for another event? And I brought it up internally to some raised eyebrows. Why would we do another event? Health is young and it's still growing. But after a couple of months of discussing this, we really did see a clear need for something. And we created ViVE as another marketplace really focused on the business of healthcare. And whereas health, as I mentioned, is payers and providers and employers and life sciences and government and VCs and startups, some of those sectors overlap at ViVE, but instead of a chief innovation officer at health, we'll have a chief information officer at ViVE. So we have a lot of the same companies sending different people for different reasons. There's a different set of companies there. There's a different set of topics in the program, and really a different conversation going on, and a different purpose. So we launched ViVE. In our first year, which was in 22, we pretty much had everything going against us. It was a first year event. The event took place just after the second variant. And we landed an event with about 5,100 attendees and about 350 companies. And, what we again focused on, which is our format, and that is delivering return on investment and fresh content and no large booths, senior executives, and an experience. And it seemed to have landed. For year two, which will be taking place, and our first year was in South Beach, which is not a bad place to kick off an event. But year two will be in Nashville, and we think that's going to be a great setting for the event. We're seeing significant growth in the event for year two. We're targeting about 500 companies and about 7,500 attendees. So we'll see about a 50% growth there. The other thing that we're seeing significant growth in is our hosted buyer program. And that's really important right now because it allows provider systems to send attendees to the event at no cost. And, with what's going on right now, we think that's very important. Budgets are cut, but people still have to do business.
Right.
And so, those individuals that are from provider systems mainly, we have payer and provider as part of our hosted buyer at ViVE, but they can apply for the event. And if they're accepted, they take 8 meetings and they're pre-scheduled. They're very curated and managed, and they're 15 minutes, and that's it. So it allows them to attend the event at no charge if they do that. If they do 12 or more meetings, we actually give them $750 towards travel. So we think that at a time right now when, especially hospital systems are really feeling the budget crunch, this is something that for us is a great thing to offer. So, but with ViVE, we came out of it. And even with with health, what we try to do is be responsive to the industry and listen. And I think it's important to integrate those things into the event so people feel that we respect them and the time they spend with us and the investment, but also that we're trying to be responsive to what the industry is saying they need or want.
Yes. No, and it's working. I mean, I'll be in Nashville, I think March 26th. I think I fly in on the 25th or 26th, and I'll be there for 4 days. So looking forward to it. How about about 45 seconds left or so? Yeah. But yeah. What are the major themes for ViVE this year? What are some high points?
Yeah. So ViVE, I mean, it's interoperability, cybersecurity, 2 big themes for us, that are happening this year. AI is big. How tech is stepping in to aid the work shortage. That's another thing you'll see. Different points of care that are emerging, and data integrity and ownership. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's happening. What we try to do is look at all of this as actionable. The other thing that's important for us is our health foundation that does our impact programs at health, and ViVE is hosting a Tequity program, and we'll release a 2-year research program in the Tequity space. So a lot of things like that are happening. We try with the content to keep it very fresh, and our speaker lineup this year is going to be really amazing.
Yeah, no, I look forward to it. We booked I booked my tickets, I think almost 6 months ago,
Right.
and in pre-planning. So, and I'm actually bringing a whole crew with me. So, we're looking very forward to it. So, and I know actually I'm a broadcasting radio show live, from ViVE as well. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we appreciate it.
Rich, thank you so much, my friend. Great to have you on air. We'll certainly have you back. I know Steve Lieber is also going to join here in the coming weeks. So much more to come from about ViVE and what's going to happen and how we're going to all dive into the show together. So thanks again, my friend.
All right. Thanks for inviting me.
You got it.
Okay.
And thank you to everyone for joining us today. You can join us weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag #ThisJustinRadio so I can respond to your comments from the show. If you missed any of this episode or want to hear more, all the shows are posted on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. Also, we also launched a brand new website at justinbarnes.com with a lot of good new content. So check that out. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.